So the church has all sorts of responsibilities, but it seems to me that the church has the responsibility to prepare its people to do the work that they're called to do in their communities, their places of business, and all around the world. So how should the church prepare its members to do the work God's called them to do?
Yeah, you're exactly right. The question is framed perfectly because it is, in fact, the church's responsibility. Part one, it seems to me, about how the church should equip the rest of the saints to do the work of the ministry, which is the language of Ephesians 4, is recognizing that that is the church's responsibility. And we haven't done a good job at this. We need to acknowledge and admit this, that pastors have not done a good job making sure to recognize the variety, the ecology of vocations that exist within their own church communities. And then thinking about how do you help the business person? How do you help the educator? How do you help the politician or the policymaker or whatever the person is, whatever their job is? How do we help them connect those dots theologically between their faith and our work? So I think it starts first and foremost with recognizing that that is our responsibility. It doesn't mean then that pastors should become experts on every vocation. But pastors can help people ask better questions about their jobs. For example, if it's true, as we've talked about before, if it's true that work was built into God's world and our responsibilities in God's world before sin entered the world and fractured and frustrated that process, if it's true that it was already there and was good, then what is it about sin that has frustrated our work? And let us have the eyes of faith as we look at our vocations and try to identify, okay, where has God's design been corrupted or misdirected here by sin? And pick up on those things, pay attention to those things, and then start asking questions about, okay, how can I put the gospel at work to help reconcile some of those things, to fix some of those fractures, ultimately to the end that this is precisely the way the new heavens, new earth will work, as best we understand.
So let's take one vocation, or one job. Let's take a truck driver. How should the pastor equip the truck driver to love God and love his neighbor as a truck driver? He spends hours and hours in his truck and miles on the road.
Yep.
How does the pastor equip that person execute their job for the glory of God and for the good of those that they're serving?
Yeah, I would say two things. First, recognize, I don't want to get too theoretical here, but recognize first that the truck driver, as well as everyone else in every other vocation, is already embedded in a web of relationships. So stick with me for a second. We're embedded in a web of relationships. One relationship that goes this direction, between us and God himself. Another relationship that goes this direction, between me and other people, the truck driver and other people. There's another relationship that we have with ourselves. And we have a relationship with the rest of creation. And then there's another relationship that we don't talk about that much, which is the relationship with the process of our own work, the actual doing of the work that we do. If I'm talking to a truck driver, first of all, I wouldn't pretend to know all the specifics about what he or she does in their job, but I would start asking questions like that and say, okay, help me think about what exactly in your job, how does it affect these relationships, this relationship, the one with yourself, with the process of your work, and with the rest of creation? And start thinking about that and let them begin to identify those things. And then as they identify those things, ask, okay, where has sin wrought a problem there? Where has sin frustrated that? Where has sin made it more difficult for you to do your job well? Where has sin made it difficult for you to interact with colleagues well? Where does sin prevent you in some way or another from loving God and neighbor the way that you should? Where is there ways that you could perhaps iron out some wrinkles in your job, in the way that your company works their fleet of trucks, or the way in which you schedule your routes, those kind of things? Where is there a way that would actually provide for a deeper sense of spirituality and a way of redeeming the time in how you do your work? These are the kinds of questions. I would have to let other people pull out the real specifics, but then ask them, okay, does it seem like sin has corrupted, misdirected that? And is there a way to iron out a wrinkle there, to fix a fracture that may be in one of those relationships?